This is Lodge Tales. I'm your host, Rod Williamson, and thanks again for joining us on another episode. If you are Native American and you'd like to come on the show to share your strange and paranormal experiences, please consider emailing us at lodgetales@gmail.com.
And I heard the first officer call out. And then the first officer jumps on the radio and he screams, "Holy shit, it's the goat man." And I mean, it just like everything went quiet. And I could hear the ringing in my ears and I could feel my heart race. And so I hit my light and I went flying up there.
I've been told by some older people, elders, that you grab them and you hold them and you don't own them, but you hold them there until daylight. If you can hold them or pull them into the light, it destroys anything they have, any kind of power or anything they were trying to do to you. It'll destroy them.
This guy was like bouncing, like, you know, like how you see people kind of getting ready to jig, you know how they kind of bounce? Yeah, he was like that way. He was just kind of bouncing, and he was just kind of going back and forth on one foot to the other. And he just kind of turned sideways, and he turned back over to the other way, and shit, he took off. He took off. Holy shit, he jumped in Wanda.
All right, thanks for joining us here at Lodge Tales once again. And our next guest on our show is Clifton Bullshoe. I'll go ahead and let him take the lead right now and go ahead and introduce himself, tell a little bit about himself, and then he'll go ahead and go into his ghost stories. All right, Clifton, if you don't mind, go ahead and tell us, a little bit about what you experienced and kind of walk us into everything.
Oh, okay. My name's Clifton Bullshoe. Reside here on a Blackfeet Indian reservation, and the story I'm about to tell you happened to me when I was younger, and me and my wife first moved into our first apartment here in Browning, and we used to rent from Stu Harwood and Peggy. They had a brown building there by the Catholic Church on First Street. Was it First Street? First Ave, one of them. Well, anyway, one night, or one evening, I should say, it was dark out. Went to bring my dog for a walk around Government Square, so we went over, and it was winter out, walking on the snow, crunching snow as you're walking down the street from the Catholic Church down by the light office and then over to Government Square. Finally got there and did a couple laps, did 2 laps, and decided to come back home. And walking down the street again, and you could smell winter. When winter's around, you could smell aspens, you could smell different, the wood smoke coming down the street. Looking at the houses and stuff, you could see the frost and icicles stack up along the corners. So it was cold out. And I got down to the second alleyway to where my house was, and I used to walk up that alley, and the house I used to stay in was about 40 feet from the road, so we were kind of tucked in the back there. Well, anyway, I get up close to the church, and my dog, Buddy, kind of growls through his nose and perks up, and he growls again, and he like turns back, and he like kind of lays on me and pushes me with his head to stop me. And so I stop, and I was like looking around, and I couldn't see anything at first. And then I could hear this woman. Crying. And this woman is at the front front doors of the Catholic church here in Browning, and she's kneeling down and she's crying. My dog kind of growls and barks to his nose a little bit, and he tries to turn around and go back down the street, trying to pull me back down the street. So I turn him around and I pull him, and I'm talking to him. So, come on, buddy, let's go home. And he growls again, and then this time he aggressively jumps forward and jumps forward towards the church. And so when he jumps forward and he pulls me, my head goes down, and when I come looking up, I can see that woman crying. She's slapping, takes her right hand up and she's slapping that door. Oh, I'm sorry, please let me in. Just let me in, please. I'm really sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. And she put her hand in her face and she'd cry. And Buddy would growl just really low, just a really deep growl that, that kind of puts a little bit of fear in you, when you hear an animal growl like that. So, and I pull him and I tell him, come on, buddy, let's go, I'm trying to pull him down that alleyway to face him down towards the house there. And this woman stands up and she floats backwards to the rail of the stairs on that church where the balcony is on top of the stairs are. And her feet grab that the railing of them stairs there on top, and she perches and she sits down like on her heels. And she was saying, oh, why don't you just let me in? Just let me in. I'm really sorry. Just please let me in. And, and I'm standing there by this trailer, by the alleyway, and I'm looking, and, and I'm in disbelief, I'm in disbelief because, hey, is this really happening? And to mind you, this is at dark. It's nighttime. It's winter. There's hardly anybody around, huh? And there was nobody else on that street except for me and my dog. So I finally pulled him back around, and I go over to the house, and my dog takes off again, and I try to grab him. He's a big dog. He was about 250 pounds. It was a Newfoundland and a Irish sitter cross. And he was a pretty good sized dog, but he pulled me back down that alleyway, and that woman stands up on that rail, and she just floats back down, floats back down to that door of the church, and she's crying, and she just repeats all that stuff like I said before. She's, oh, I'm sorry, please, just let me go home, let me in. And it never worked out for that spirit that night. For, I don't know, she's looking for redemption in her own way of getting rid of her, the evilness of her, asking for help and forgiveness. You could see not only people in real life ask for help that way, but spirits, when they're lost and stuff like that way, they ask for help, or they have people help them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that night, after I got my dog under control and we got home, and my dog slept right by us that night. He usually, sleeps by the door or outside on the balcony. And that night he didn't let any of us out of his sight. Oh man, it was a scary situation at first, but after, you sit and think about it, spirits, they come in all shapes and sizes, and not all of them want the same thing, but, for the ones that ask for help, I think those are the ones that are seen the most.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you're right. A lot of the times when these people are they're getting spooked and stuff, they'll hear those bangs. I was always told when you hear that bang, I mean the spirit showed up. But
Yeah.
they're always they're always trying to make sense of everything, right? And I think a lot of times those spirits, what they want is what you were saying too. I mean, I don't mean to get sidetracked here with my train of thought, but they. I also heard when they're around like that, they're trying to get your attention. A lot of times this scares you. But if Daryl said, if you can just overcome your fear and try to help them some way, overcome your fear is what he said. But I'm saying if you try to help them by overcoming your fear, you can influence whatever journey they're on in a positive way. There's that story with me down in Bozeman when that spook was in that warehouse. I had to cedar that place out and ask the creator to take him, to bring him over because he was over here sad and no good and not in a good way, and it didn't bother me no more when I finally cedar that place out. But I think when people get spooked, this is my suspicion is that sometimes they're just there trying to get your attention to ask for help. Maybe it's just prayers. Maybe they don't even know what to ask for.
Yeah.
And over time, they keep asking, they get frustrated. Because it said too, the longer you don't cross over and go back over to the sandhills, then you stay here, you're going to be bad. You just turn that way. And that's probably why you get frustrated too much. Yeah, who knows?
Yeah. This lady I'm talking about, I should have addressed this too at the beginning of the story, is that she was in a kind of a yellow, like a really light yellow gown. She was barefoot and there was no sleeves on that gown. Just, it was just the way I seen her was just like that way, just in a gown, barefoot, no sleeves, long hair, and like I said, she was crying, holding her hands in her face, and she's slapping the door and asking for forgiveness, and that and I don't at that time, I didn't really understand about helping spirits um or not helping them, but understanding, like, you know why why they appear, or why they appear to a certain individual,
Mm-hmm.
or a lot of individuals over time. Many people will say, "Oh yeah, well, something like that happened to so and so." So it's not just me that might have seen something like that way when I lived there. Other residents that been living there for, oh cripe, 20, 40 years now on that street, they probably seen some crazy stuff.
Nobody really, you don't hear about it though, because nobody really talks about it. Maybe with this show, it'll come out and people will hear it and be, hey, wait, I'll call in there. You know?
Yeah, and there's, and a couple things happened to us when we lived at the house. I had a few more incidents that happened, and in seeing is believing. Seeing is believing, and then if people could just actually wrap their head around, not just in this world, but there's all these different little worlds that are around us too. These spirits, animals. Animals have spirits too,
Yeah.
and in a long time ago, that's how we gained our power as a people. Our dreams are powerful. They're
Mm-hmm.
they give us visions. They give us information to where we need to go, what we need to do. And actually sit and talk with the spirit. have a conversation of medicines, of power, how to heal people,
Yeah.
things like that way. And a lot of people don't open up themselves to that world. So there's a lot of misunderstanding and misuse of words that people should, really hold close to them because, a lot of our family members are on that side.
Hmm.
Everybody's family members are on a side. It doesn't matter what they believe in, God, Creator, Buddha, whoever, you know, what you all think as a people, we all we all pray in our own way. We all have our own, our beliefs of our people passing on, things like that way. And to have something happen to you to where you can witness it yourself, is hmm, I don't know if it's a blessing or if it's um, like a warning of change of life, because a lot of things, things that happen like that way, a change of life will be coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really something to that change of life. How about when? Tell me what happens. I'm just gonna ask you. One of the girls in the family, or anybody in the family, said, "I had a dream there was a snake crawled over my foot," or anything like that, or there's a snake in my dream, or
Yeah,
what?
it's usually um, a family member that's pregnant.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's usually a family member that's pregnant,
it
or
never fails.
or somebody in their own family that's pregnant. And it's not just necessarily the women in the family. It could be the guys.
Yeah.
The guys, their mates, their girlfriends, their wives. Their chippies.
A baby's coming. A love child is coming.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what
yeah.
that means.
Yeah, or they dream of frogs, or a lizard,
Hmm. Yep.
like
Yep.
salamanders,
Yeah.
or
That's crazy. That never fails. Every time I hear somebody say that somebody is pregnant, it just never fails. It's kind of the oddest
yeah,
thing I think. You know, a lot of those dreams are really powerful. They're so powerful that sometimes I don't even know what to make sense of when I come out of them. You just sit there and you just wait. Years might go by until something makes sense.
yeah, yeah, or like you're saying, you dream of a reptile, and, uh, and then like a couple months go by, and then someone says, "Oh yeah, we're gonna have a baby."
Yeah.
Well, it's a true story. My wife, Carmelita, she was dreaming of snakes. My sister Kate, or my sister Candace, dreamt of snakes, and everybody in our family was dreaming snakes, and the ladies were pointing fingers at each other. No, it's you, it's you, it's you. All last spring, someone, they kept dreaming of dreaming of snakes, and all the way up till, what was it, September or October? Yeah, but she didn't tell us then. But well, anyway, my daughter Shantanya,
Oh yeah.
she, she had everybody fooled, that girl, and she didn't even know until she was like 9 weeks.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a blessing in disguise, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's what everybody. Then after she come out and she told us, and everybody was like, "I knew it was somebody in the family." Yeah.
You know what? There's one thing I want to bring up. I heard because we were talking earlier, and I heard on Strange Familiars podcast. There's a guy named Timothy Renner. That's his podcast, and I'm just kind of throwing some mentioning to their podcast their way too, promote them a little. So he has a guest on there. His name is Brother Richard. He's a Catholic monk over in Ireland. And one time I told him some stories. Well, anyways, we're looking at the. I was looking at the comments, and he said, you know what, because how we pray, how we seek medicine, how we how those really holy people, they really watch their thoughts. When you're holding so much responsibility with those bundles and everything, you don't make hard thoughts toward people because that travel, all these things that we know of. Brother Richard knows of them too, but in that Catholic way, and he'll have a way of talking about them in his Catholic way, and how he phrases it. He I imagine he smiles, but what he says is, we are all using the same channels to tap into the same force, the same power, the same life force, the same creator, the same Tapastapuyup, source of life, whatever you want to say. But that was fascinating to me because really the Catholic religion in our way, it's always been like this oppressive thing until people embraced it and kind of used it. But even to this day, it seems like this oppressive thing. Well, when you talk to Brother Richard, it ain't even like that. He is like Father Powers. Remember how Father Powers was?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how Brother Richard is. So there's like this. I have a newfound respect, I would say, for the church because of this man, and how he talks. He talks he talks more like our holy people than he does like a, how would I say, a preacher or something. He talks more like
Yeah.
those holy people, yeah, because he is. He he gave up his life to be a servant, just like those bundle holders are. You become a tool of the Creator. That's what he
Yeah.
is. He's no longer Brother Richard. He's a servant of Natusi. I think that's cool how that works, because it is true. It doesn't matter. We all got our own ways, but we have our own ways of tapping into our own channels to tap into the same power.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
You have to
Really.
plug in the like outlets.
That's why I think it's bad for people to say, "Oh no, my religion's right, yours is wrong."
Yeah.
I don't. I think that's how would I say it? I think it's naive to say something like that.
Naive, bias.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and see, that's not really how it is. You got your way you abide by, and we got our ways we abide by. You know, and we
Yeah.
can't. There's a lot of mixing. There is, like, you got Blackfeet Catholics, Blackfeet Christians. You got
Yeah.
and across the world you might have like a Buddhist, what's that one, Confucianist. You might have these these
Yeah.
these mixed religion. Shinto might be mixed with something. But either
Yeah.
way, when you embrace that way, you basically agree to follow in their ways. And so that's what I'd like to tell everybody is, look, man, we all got our own ways. You don't have to follow everybody. As a matter of fact, we don't even, in our way, we're not allowed to recruit. It's not even like that. We let the Creator and those spirits bring you to us. If you're meant to be there, you'll be there. That's just how it is. We don't we
Yeah.
don't we don't go out and send out flyers. Oh, attend this sweat lodge on Sunday. Ain't nothing
Yeah.
like
You
that.
know, we don't go door to door and hand out pamphlets.
That is gonna be a sweat.
You know, and a lot of people, native people were humorous.
Mhm.
We'll find anything to laugh at.
A race of
No.
jokers.
Yeah. And a lot of non-natives, they don't get our humor because they're not open up.
Hmm.
They're not open to, that all their lives, something was drilled into them since they were born. It was drilled into them. It's got to be this way. It's got to, you can't do this, you can't do that, or and that's the religion. That's religion across the world.
Yeah.
You know, any religion. Um, wherever you come from, your culture is drilled into you.
Uh-huh.
And like you said, there's a lot of mixing. There's a lot of mixing of religions, and I know a lot of people that do both.
Yeah.
That'll go to church, they'll come to ceremonies, hey man, it don't it don't bother me none.
No, me neither.
No, and one thing a father told me before, uh he says, oh, I appreciate you coming to church, coming to my house. He says, but I'll never carry a Bible into your house. He says, because unless it's welcome, unless you welcome it, to it's okay to bring a Bible in someone's house, or if they're a traditional person, if they have a bundle, they ain't gonna take a bundle to go to church, things like that. They have that understanding. The our spiritual leaders have that understanding of each other, and a lot of times they do help each other. They'll sit and visit, they'll talk about certain things, and and a lot of times, like Father Power would even speak Blackfeet in church.
Jeez.
A few times, he'd greet everybody in Blackfeet,
Yeah.
you know, and there was a few times I witnessed him do it in church, and you kind of think about, man, just think a long time ago, if Father Powers did that back then, like when our grandparents
Oh
or our
yeah.
great grandparents spoke their own language, shit, they got beat.
Yep.
They got beat. Now to see Father Powers, Daniel Powers to speak Blackfeet in a church, it was like, oh man, it feels good to see somebody finally open up, to other people's culture, not only just theirs. Was that?
I said that was really good about him. He always embraced us.
Yeah,
He loved us for the
yeah,
people we were. You know.
yeah. And he'd smudge.
Yeah. Mhm.
He'd light smudge at church, and instead of using incense, he'd use sweetgrass or sweet pine.
When you're
You know,
near him, you felt uplifted, like how you do around those really holy people too. They make
yeah,
they make you feel happy. I don't know how that is. You just gotta sit by them. It's their energy. There's something. They're up there, man, and you can't help but be lifted by it. It's almost like you got no choice. Those are powerful people. All right, we did Clifton's in I think two sessions. Anyways, we had to kind of take a break, but here's the beginning of part two.
well, hello again. Okay, this is Clifton Bullshoe from Browning, Montana. Gonna tell a few stories tonight here with my cousin-in-law, uh, Rod. So we talked about a couple stories before, about recording them. So there's this one here. I was my junior year in high school. It was 1990. It was 95, 96 here, my junior year, and during basketball season. Uh, got home late one night after basketball practice, and just get into the log house, kick all my stuff. I was pretty tired. I didn't even want to eat, so just went straight to bed. I was the only one over at the log house. So I had to make a fire. We had a whole log house on the ranch. That log house is over 100 years old before it burned down a few years ago. But on the west side, there used to that was the bunkhouse.
And then on the east, or on the east side was the bunkhouse, and on the west side was like the kitchen area and all of that stuff a long time ago. But we now this they used to use it for a storage area. And had a lot of pictures and Grandpa's old books in there and a bunch of old documents and stuff that through the ranch and stuff. That was in the log house that burnt. But that evening, we we got done with practice, and like I said, I got home and it was late, so I just went to bed and I didn't think anything of it, sleeping in lies, sleeping there. It was 100 times before by myself, and I never ever have been bothered. But I always heard stories, and I was always kind of leery, of uh, of of seeing. They always talked about this little man. I was this little man in this tiny log house, and stories before that. There used to be a little man over in Doris, Bullshoe's place there. Our old persons on Badger Creek there. They had a bundle in there, and a couple of times the people seen that little guy take that bundle down and take everything out and look at it and put everything back in there and wrap it back up and roll it up and put it back up on the wall. There were a few people that seen that. That one there, I don't know if it's the same one, but that night I was laying in bed and turned the light out, and you can hear the fire crackling and the smell of dust being in the log house, and the smell of spittoons. Yeah, it was a bunkhouse, all right. It was a bachelor pad. Smell of old stale beer and whiskey.
And regret.
Yeah, yeah, and old cigarettes, couple of joint roaches here and there. But anyway, I was sleeping, and I was sleeping on the south side, right by the door. As soon as you walked in, right to the left is where my bed was, and Virgil's bed was on the right side of the door. So, and then Uncle Ray's was over in the corner in the far northwest corner, and then Bike and them, they all had a bunk bed, like uh, two-tier bunk bed over on the west wall. And, well, anyway, I was sleeping, and I could feel this like this shimmy, like you know how like when somebody's heavy and they walk by you and you kind of feel like a float.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And well, anyway, I felt that, and I felt funny, and I just pulled my blanket over my head down to my chest, and I kind of peeked up, and I was looking around, and I couldn't see. I couldn't really focus. So I closed my eyes really tight, and I counted counted to 10, and then I opened them, and I could kind of see a little better, and then pretty soon I could see this thing move. And I was like, what is that, they let that cat in there? God damn it, that pissing cat's in there. So I got up and I turned that light on, and I walked over by the window and I turned that light on. We only had one light in there, and it was by the window. And the radio was there. A little table there. We played crib on, a couple chairs. And I turned that light on, and I was looking around, and I couldn't see nothing. I didn't see nothing. Looked under the beds. I grabbed that broom, and I was kind of like sliding that broom underneath the beds to see if I could, hit that cat. And I was like, shit, there ain't no cat in there. You seeing shit. I was telling myself that on. So I just went back over, and I just left that light on, and I went to bed. And here I just no more dozing off, and I felt that again. Felt that shimmy. And as soon as I looked up, oh, just like I froze. The only thing I could move was just like my eyelids and my eyes, like moving them up and down and sideways
Yeah.
and blinking. That was the only thing I could do. Just like I froze. And at the end of my feet, that little guy had me straddled with his front arms at the end of that bed.
Ooh.
And right where my feet were is where his face was, and he just kind of, it was like a midget, midget. Yeah, that's what it reminded me. It was a midget, but there ain't no midgets around here. But that's the only way I could interpret it. Is it was like a midget. It was a small person, a tiny person. But anyway, he had me straddled, and he'd push down with his hands on that bed. He'd shake that bed. And then he like start crawling up, like he just kind of like slowly made his way up to where he was on his knees at the end of that bed. And by that time, his arms were like already by my knees,
Ooh.
and he was getting closer and closer to me. And fuck, I tried to scream, I tried to holler, I even tried cussing and shit. It wouldn't work. I couldn't do nothing, man. I was just froze. And then shit, I just closed my eyes and I just tried to kick hard as I could. Shit, and I ended up kicking him. I kicked him off me, kicked my blankets off me at the same time. And I just had a barefoot and just had my chunks on. And it was about 18 inches of snow outside. And it was cold. It was during winter time when this happened. And I beat it over to that house, man. I was slipping in the snow. Shit, my feet kind of got cut up a little bit from the ice and stuff.
Mm.
Shit, I come through that back door and I did right to the couch, man. I sat on that couch and I just sat there, and my grandpa come in and he said, come in his wheelchair. And what's wrong, my boy? I said, oh, I told him I seen that little guy they're always talking about over there. Oh, shit, I'm going to have to go over there and clean it out again. And that's what my grandpa was saying. You have to get them boys together tomorrow. And he said, what did he do to you? I told him, he tried to crawl up close to me from the end of the bed to where I was laying. And he said, well, what happened? And I was telling him, shit, I froze. I couldn't even, only thing I could move was my eyelids and my eyeballs, like moving them up and down and side to side. And that was the only thing I could move. I couldn't talk, I couldn't scream, I couldn't even cuss. And I told him, I just closed my eyes really hard, and I was just trying to kick in my mind, I was just kicking, and shit, I finally, I kicked, and I knocked him and my blankets off that bed, and I ran over here. I said, that door's still open over there. He says, put your boots on. I said, we'll go over and we'll turn that light out, and we'll turn that damper off on that stove, let it burn out. All right. So we walked over there, and shit, it was cold out. Just had my boots on and a jacket and my chunks, and we walked over there. And Uncle Virgil. And where's that? Where did he come out of? I told him, shit, I don't know. He says, everybody says he comes out of just Uncle Ray's closet. And I told him, I don't know. I was sleeping when he was already by me. He's like, oh, he says, you didn't even know? I thought, shit, I was tired. I got done with basketball practice, man. I'm tired. I didn't even want to eat. I just went straight to bed. And went over there. Anyway, we got over there, me and Verge, and turned that light up. Cool. Turned that damper off, and we turned that light out, and we come out. Just no more close that door, and we used to use baling twine to tie it shut. We had a big spike there, and by the end of by the door, end of one of them logs, and we used to tie it shut. And from the inside, we could tie it shut from the inside. And well, anyway, we were just tying it shut, and we just no more turned around, and we heard a big slam, right on that door, like a big pop. Holy shit, that was loud. And Bird said, "Come on, let's go. Don't even look back. Just keep looking. Just look forward. Just keep going." Shit, we got to that house, and that I glanced back, and that piston light was and Verge turned around and said, Shaw, just leave it. Just leave it. We'll go clean it out in the morning." Yeah, but yeah, that was one of the stories there that happened to me in that log house.
What did
And there was a few other times family members seen him in there, artists seen him. I think Rod seen him, and Steve. I know Uncle Ray talked about him quite a bit.
what did they say he looks like?
He was just a little man, just with like I don't know. I don't even know like what he wore. He looked normal to me. Like he was just like he had I don't know. It wasn't a t-shirt, but it was a shirt. I know he had a shirt on.
Was he proportionate, or did he look funny, like how you said, like a dwarf?
Yeah, he looked like he looked like a dwarf type thing, and the top of his head was kind of flat. It was
Weird.
kind of flat a little bit. That was the only kind of thing that was odd about it. It was like the top of his head looked flat.
You think he was from across the mountains? The
He a
Flatheads?
flathead guy, yeah, a flathead
No.
spirit. I don't know, but there's out that way on Fourhorn, Whitetail Creek, Badger Creek. I don't know about Medicine if they've ran into anything like that way, but I know Fourhorn too. I've heard stories from my family members, my grandpa, my uncles, aunts, uncles, great uncles, great aunts tell stories about a little man in that lake. And I always wondered if it was the same one. He traveled back and forth, checking things out, or if it was a group of them. Never know.
Yeah.
Never know. But yeah, ever since then, shit, little people, like when I see a midget, man, I'm just like, oh shit,
Yeah.
Always keep an eye on where they're at. Get excited when I see one now, shit.
Those little
Yeah.
people, we'd see them. I'd see them sometimes, but that one I seen two of them. One was only like, he's like 12 inches tall. The other one was like 4 feet tall. But that 4 feet tall one was a shadow. The other one was just a little shrunk Indian.
Yeah. I seen them little tiny guys up Looking Glass. Me and my wife, my kids, we'd go up there and pick thimbleberries towards kind of like the middle of July. Always on my birthday, we'd go up there and check on the 15th of July. We'd go up and we'd check to see if they're right or how far along they are. And usually right about then, some of them will be right towards the end of July. Then, they really get right. But we're up there and we're picking them, and they're just like raspberries, They're like a raspberry type thing. And we were all up there picking, and pretty soon it's like we all just stood up and we all looked the same direction, like we all felt something. And we all just kind of come together as a group. We were all picking, and And I went up and I put tobacco out, and I was like, whatever it is, leave us alone. And thought it was a bear at first. Thought it was a bear, and I put tobacco down. We were just still picking, and shit, we could just feel that uneasy feeling. Pretty soon, Tommy looks around, and she's like, "What's that right there?" And I'm like looking, and I couldn't see really good. And underneath them shadows, and that's how we ran into them up there. There were a group of them.
The whole group?
Yeah, we left. We left out there.
My dad has a story that those little people. His is kind of interesting because what they were cutting wood and they walked up and they seen an abandoned wagon, and I thought when he first told me this story, I thought he was talking about a kid's wagon that you pull. He says no,
Oh yeah,
it was as big as a kid's wagon. Just how small they are. But it was a real
yeah,
old time 1880s wagon, rivets and all pounded into it and everything. And it was just
yeah.
small, and they they seen it and they diverged their path and they walked past another. Got a little wood in his headed at that area, but to come back, I think they went back the next evening or that evening. Anyways, they checked shortly thereafter, and that little wagon was gone. His impression was that they caught him out there gathering stuff too. Must have been getting wood, who knows? But,
Yeah,
but they caught him, and they just hid, dropped everything and hid.
yeah, yeah. You could see them duck behind them trees.
The Crazy Dog Society. That's what that's all about. Those little people.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know.
He duck some ducks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they. That's what Those little people are talked about all over the world too. And in our it don't matter what story you get to, when those little people get to fighting. Oh Christ! I guess they're strong.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
fierce.
I actually seen it happen to me twice. I seen the spirit jump into two different people.
Ooh.
Yeah. One was at the log house. We were all drinking. New Year's Eve.
Ooh.
We were all drinking over at the log house. Just having a good time playing cards. And Piss and Dwayne come riding in that log house on Sax um, Sax Gray Colt that time. His name was Rocket's Jewel. He was a Dash for Cash Colt, and or Dash is Dash actually Dash for Cash's brother, I think. But anyway, he come riding in there, horseback. And shit, he had us all just scattered in there, and he was hooting and hollering and flipping that horse around, making him turn around fast, and he was just laughing, just laughing, having a good time, and shit, we all start whipping that horse and whipping him, and shit, he ducked down and he turned that horse out that door, and shit, he rode out. He come back over, he was just laughing at us. He said, "Oh shit, you should have seen you guys' eyes." I started laughing. I thought, "Oh, come on, let's finish playing cards." Piss, you ruined our game, interrupted our game. We're just sitting there and we were drinking. And I had a beer with me too. And they opened that door, and Easy said, "Oh, I gotta go use the bathroom." So he walked out. And at the table, there was Bite by the door, or his back was towards the door. I was facing the door across from him. Dwayne was sitting by me on my left side, right next to me. And then right by Dwayne was Leighton, Dwayne's brother-in-law, Leighton Roberts.
Mm-hmm.
And We were just playing cards. Me and Leighton we were paired up, and it was Mike and Dwayne. We were playing cards, and here come bees walking in, and then this person walked in behind him, and that door was still open, and Dwayne threw his cards down. He said, "We did it! We did it! We got it!" They 31'd us to beat us for the game. Threw his cards down. He was all excited, and him and Bike were all high fiving each other, and they got up, and Bike's like, "Let's go have a toke, let's have a toke." And he got up and he went to turn, and when he turned, that person that followed Beezy jumped into Bike, and this Bike had superpowers. Oh, he picked Leighton up by the shoulders and just slammed him. Boom! While Leighton was sitting down,
What
just
little
kicked him up out of his chair and fucking slapped him.
little bike?
Yeah, Bike, little bunny Bike.
Oh,
And Leighton was about maybe like 220 pounds, maybe 240. He was kind of a chunky guy. And holy shit, it was just over just like that. Like as soon as Bike did that, like after that, like Bike like was like, "Hey, what's going on?" We all had Bike. We're all holding Bike back.
holding bike back.
Yeah, we were all on Bike, man. Beezy, me, and Dwayne, we were all on Bike. Leighton was laying there on the floor, all knocked out.
It was probably the first time anybody ever held bike back.
Well, that was crazy. Oh, and Leighton come too. He was crying, all shook up, and he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go tell Molly. I'm gonna tell Molly." And Mike's like, "No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was going on. Honestly, I don't know what happened." And they were going over, and then Mike started smashing Leighton, and then Dwayne stepped in between them, and Dwayne got Bike and fucking slammed Bike down on the ground, and Bike started crying. He's like, "Geez, you guys always do this to me. You guys always pick on me." I was just, in my mind, I was thinking, on a biscuit Bike do that, man. Pick up Leighton out of his chair and slam him, like pick him up like 4 feet off the ground and just slam him backwards.
Oh.
Yeah, but that was one of the times that happened. Like I seen the spirit jump into somebody. And another time when I was living in town at Stu Harwood's apartment in that alleyway there, me and my wife both witnessed it. This lady, they used to call her Horseface. Her name was Tony. I don't know her last name. Wanda, Scabby Rogue, and her husband, that little Tony. Tony Franks. And then there was Bozo. Bozo and Nose, yeah, they were walking down the alleyway, going towards the church. You can see kind of that back window where we're at. You can see quite a ways down. You can see all the way down to that. Is it a Mormon church there at the end there, across from that food bank area there, or is it a Mormon? It's some kind of church, Baptist church, Mormon church. I don't know. There's so many churches around Brownie and can't keep up with them. But anyway, they were coming down that alleyway, and this guy was like bouncing, like like how you see people kind of getting ready to jig. You know how they kind of bounce.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like that way. He was just kind of bouncing, and he was just kind of going back and forth on one foot to the other. And he just kind of turned sideways, and he turned back over to the other way, and he took off. He took off. Holy shit, he jumped in Wanda. And it's like Wanda, just like everybody walked past Wanda. Like Wanda just froze there for like a couple seconds. Oh shit! She just started grabbing them and throwing them with one hand, throwing them against them fences in the alleyway, just slamming them, throwing them all over. And shit, I took off. I ran out there, start hollering, hey, 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 hey. Start hollering. I got over there and Wanda's kneeling down and she's crying. And I was like, Wanda, Wanda, are you okay? And she's like, what happened? What happened? Who beat us up?
What?
Yeah, that's what she said. She's like, what happened? What happened? Who beat us up? Because everybody was laying on the ground. They were all rolling over, oh, they were all slammed around.
Man, that's crazy. That same alley, I remember you told me that story I've been bugging you for. Do you feel like telling it?
Yeah, I can tell that story. That's the same house, same place. It was during the winter. Yeah. I always wondered why. I always wondered why. This was in like 98, 99. We used to live in that house there. And well, anyway, I always wondered why the trash was always dumped in that alleyway. I always thought it was dogs getting into it. Because everything was, tied up. Everything was in like a box, like a frame for the trash cans. Those little tin trash cans that they used to have for the alleyway there. Well, anyway, that one night I was just sitting there and had Buddy inside and Shantanya, my daughter Shantanya at the time. She was just tiny. She was about 2 years old. And she was playing around with Buddy, and they were just playing around in the living room. And here I could hear these things. You know how you bang trash cans together, you can hear that tin sound,
Mm-hmm.
that banging. And well, anyway, I was sitting there, and I just kind of leaned back on that rocking chair back towards that window, and I was kind of looking down that alleyway, and I was going to say, oh, shit, I wonder what dog it is. And I was watching the road, the actual alleyway, the road. And then pretty soon I seen a shadow on the road. That's somebody crawling. And I got up and I turned that light on and I walked a little further past that window to look down so I could look a little further down on the corner of our house. And I didn't see anything there. And I could still see that shadow. And that shadow will kind of move every now and then. And that shadow was on the ground. And at that time, I didn't notice, and then it started moving. And then it got by these trash cans, and then I seen that trash can lid lift up, the shadow lift up. And then when it did that, my eyes followed it looking up, and there was this spirit had just the torso of a person, and then the rest of it was like a tail. And it would crawl along that fence, and it would get stuff out of the trash, and if it didn't find anything, it would just dump the whole trash can. And all that time I was blaming them dogs and shit. The spirit was hungry. So it just goes to show, people don't believe on the other side. They don't eat. They eat.
Yeah, I see. Oh. And
Yeah,
how?
I watched it go all the way down, probably about a good 25 yards, 30 yards down that alleyway, like that way, along that fence. It never touched the ground, though. It was always on that fence.
How would it? Like, was it slithering? Like, how did it move?
Like, it was like, yeah, it would use its arms to, like, crawl on that fence and, like, just use, like yeah, like almost like a slither, I guess you'd say, or like a crawl.
Weird.
Yeah, that was one really weird thing that happened in that. A lot of stuff happened in that house. A lot of stuff. Another time, we were all laying in bed. We're just laying in there, and pretty soon, Tommy's like, "Can you hear that?" And I'm like, "Hear what?" She's like, "You hear that?" And I'm like, "I don't hear anything." And just like our floorboards were like piano keys. I ain't shitting you. Our whole floorboard moved,
Whoa.
just like piano keys. Yeah, like an earthquake.
But
And
just right there?
yeah, just right in that house happened. And I ran to the front door to see if anything else was happening outside, and it was just our house. And I closed that door, and then them boards fucking moved again on the floorboards moved like a piano board.
What the hell?
And shit, we got scared, and I lit a smudge, start smudging, and Tommy's like, "Let's go sleep underneath Sean's uh, Sean's crib, baby crib." And I was like, "Come on, let's go." So we went and we crawled underneath that bed, and we slept on the floor. Made a bed on the floor, and we slept there. Let that smudge burn all night, as long as we could let it burn. We woke up that morning, and it seemed normal. It seemed like another normal day, and we were talking. I was like, "I wonder what that was. I wonder what the hell is going on in this house." And And we never, we could never figure out what the hell was going on, but there was a spirit that used to stay in there too.
That was Clifton Bullshoe. Thanks, Clifton, for coming on and sharing your stories. I'd like to thank all the patrons and listeners as well for coming here and being a part of all this, tuning in. Clifton will have part 2 and a patron episode, which will be released over on Patreon, and it's for members only. Of course, Clifton, I'll be sending you a copy of the patron episode free of charge. But everybody else, that's where you can tune in and listen to him, is over on Patreon. We only do that because it helps fund the costs of making the show. It's all self-produced. It's just me here doing this, calling, setting up interviews, taking my time to edit all these stories. I mean, these stories are bigger than us. They're bigger than me, and they're gonna reach out and touch a lot of people. And you know, most of these eyewitness accounts are pretty compelling, to say the least. I'm just happy to share a little bit of our world with you guys. And thanks again for listening. Next episode, we're going to have, after the patron episode, we're going to have Joe Comes at Night. And he talks a lot about seeing strange lights in the mountains, the Bigfoot, to 7 Mile Lane. He goes into a lot too as well. So stay tuned for Joe Comes at Night on the next episode after this one. Alright. Thanks, guys and gals. See you.